everyone, and welcome back. Thank you so much for joining me today and for tuning in. This is Merissa Indigo of Divine DNA Blueprint Mystery School. I have a guest with me today, Bijou, one of our little rescues, wanted to be with me today. She's a little bit on edge, as all of us mammals are, with the weather that we have right now. So I am really excited to share this topic. This is something that I've been doing on my own, kind of behind the scenes for about 4 years now. Actually, yeah, more than 4 years, actually. Started with a lot of the fires that were happening in California. So the day of this recording right now, I'm in the Pacific Northwest, and we have a smoke-filled sky. We have fires in 49 of our 50 states of the United States of America, and they're trying to say a hurricane is on its way to Southern California and portions of the Pacific Northwest. So I thought, all right, well, I guess it's time to talk about this. So we're going to be talking about elemental gridworking today. Another fun way to call this is weather witching. Being aware of the weather, communicating, elemental shamanism. It's one of my favorite things to be and to share and to do. And I actually, like I shared, do this pretty much full time behind the scenes. So there's not a whole lot I can say about it, but I just want to share the codes as best I can and kind of drop some hints about how powerful we are. Dr. Jose Arguelles, who I talk about a lot in my quantum time masterclass with the Mayan galactic calendar, talked about the different phases of the ascension process that we would be going through collectively and in our galactic quadrant here and planetarily. He talked about the biosphere, which we all know what that is. The natural interplay of life forms, organic life forms. He talked about the technosphere, which is the artificially created AI kind of psychic neural network connection between ourselves and the machines, and how that is a kind of a finite timeline. And then he talked about the noosphere, and this is what excites me. This is where a lot of us already are, and where more and more of us are beginning to go collectively. The noosphere is our psychic connection as humans, as our divine human capabilities continue to come online, our telepathy, our interconnectivity, our interrelations with the natural world. The noosphere is our psychic connection to the elemental realm and to the planet and so much more. So it's really the upper levels of where our consciousness is going. Many of us have come in with these gifts already engaged, these parts of our DNA codons activated to hold them for the time when it would be appropriate to share. Right now, what we are seeing on the planet, and again, this is being recorded in 2023, is a consistent increase in weather phenomena. Some of this weather phenomena, as we know, is manufactured. Some of it also, this manufacturing portion, this artificial manipulation portion, modification, is to stimulate narratives of control of the old timelines. And some of this weather phenomena is actually because of the power of our emotions as human beings in relation to our natural world and our natural environment. So while I would say the majority of what we are seeing on a mass scale of mass destruction is not natural, Gaia doesn't really do a lot of natural disasters, really, not at least the scales that we are seeing. You can feel in to what is manufactured, what is manipulation, terrorism, trauma, and you can feel into what is a natural cleanse, a natural purge. And we think about customs of native and indigenous peoples, our ancient elders and ancestors, they would have a burn on the land to bring back and restore the soil of the land, right, for greater harvest in the future. So there are ways of working with the destructive forces or aspects of the elementals that are ultimately procreative, right? And we are guided to share also many of our ancestors, really all of our ancestors. So the invitation here is to draw upon your roots, your lineage from where you are from in the world, and to connect with your ancestors, to connect with the lands that flow through you in your DNA, in your Akashic library of who you are, the unique amalgam of your form in this incarnation and all that you hold as a code keeper, as a walking library of information. Connect with your ancestors on how they connected to the natural world. We see this a lot in perhaps a great example of this would be, at least in the modern construct, the Wiccan traditions, where we celebrate the different cross quarters of the year, very into the solar cycles, the lunations, right, the lunar cycles, very into the solstices and equinoxes that are huge calendar crossovers and markers of time, markers of the path, the journey. And all of the ancestors worked with the astrology, the astronomy, and based all of their sacred sites on these events, these cosmic gateways of the solstices and the equinoxes. So that's one huge way. Another way is to go even more close to home with the elementals themselves. And one of the bulk pieces of my work that I'm so passionate about is our elemental connection and elemental embodiment. And this actually brings in the Vedic cosmology and theories of creation and conscious, really, really part of the physical aspects of the ascension process. When we look at ourselves, each of us is a unique amalgam of the elements of creation. We know we're made of stardust and all of these different amazing minerals and metals and crystals. And each of us is a unique recipe, a perfect divine unique recipe of the elements. Some of us have more fire, some of us have more earth or air or water or ether. So we're looking at these 5 elements. And in the Ayurvedic or Vedic tradition, the rishis of ancient India and Tibet, they theorize that all of the form that we have comes through ether first. So ether is kind of like that dark mother, the void of creation, birthing, stepping down into the densification of matter, the elemental forms. So it's ether first, which all comes from. It's almost like dark matter, pure positive potential, pure 0 point. Then we have air, then we have fire, and then we have water, and then we have earth. So if you notice, they're progressively getting more and more and more on the gross or the physical matter material realm. Each of us is a unique combination of all of these elements. Our astrology can give hints to this. You can actually see the elements in your entire beingness. I teach a lot about this in my different courses, the elemental UYO universe. And so the invitation today is to just sit with your elements, maybe look at your charts, do a dosha quiz, get to know your elements, and start to connect with the elements around you. Connect with the fire, which can be the sun, the sunlight, right? Connect with the air, connect with the ether, which can be our inspiration too, and also our telepathy and our psychic connection. Also like those downloads where the information is coming from source, from on high, through that ether, right? Connect to the water, connect to the earth, call on the weather angels. Every day we work with the different elements and we give thanks for each of them and call them forth, and we will just kind of, channel different ways to communicate with them, to bless them, to thank them, to strengthen them, to call forth the natural, organic, full empowerment of the natural world, of the elementals, to be free and to operate in their own divine harmonic, fulfilling their roles, their own divine service and alignment that is free from domination, control, manipulation, modification, right? That is free from any of the distorted energies that would utilize the forces of divinity, of divine creation in the physical reality for anything other than the most beautiful, harmonic, holistic, thriving, thinking of all, the abundance of all living life kind of outcomes. So we invite you to connect with the elementals in your gratitude through your heart, where you are, giving thanks to the beautiful clouds, giving thanks to the sun, giving thanks to the wind and the beautiful earth, and what we receive from the earth. Our bodies, right, are made of all of these elements. Our words, how we hear, right? Everything that we do is all ruled by the elements. So we are elemental. So when we talk about the body elemental, there is this invitation for us now to self-actualize that truth that we are an elemental. And there may be certain elements that love to come through you or that are more natural for you to connect with, and others that would help to balance you. The invitation is to start to realize that truth within yourself and to connect now on a higher level in the noosphere, through your heart, through your higher mind, through your unified state of love and appreciation and a desire for the preservation and defense of innocence and the new earth that we are birthing, and a peaceful, beautiful, harmonious transition for all here, all willing hearts. And so for me, weather witching, if you will, or just weather grid working is something I've done since a young child. I was blessed to grow up on the Big Island of Hawaii in a couple very feral natural environments where the elements were very present. We grew up off grid in my first house, so we had propane and a generator. And so the electricity even wasn't something that would hamper in on being tuned into the frequencies of the natural world. We talk about the devas, right? The living beings that are here in the plant life forms, in the mineral forms as well, the stone people. But also the wind. The wind can bring messages. The trade winds will blow in a storm and then they'll blow the storm away. And then, you know, it's sunshine and rainbows all over again. And then another beautiful storm will blow in and water and bless the earth, kiss the earth with fresh rain. So we are used to a variability in the weather and the elemental realm, the divinity of that, of the weather systems being in control because that's their job, right? And then as time goes on and we moved to California and started to see a lot of the spraying and just the different things. And you can look into the government contracts and the patents that go back to the 40s about all of the spraying and affecting the natural world adversely to make it more flammable. All of that shit is available for anyone to actually look. It's, you know, it's time to educate ourselves. If we don't know about this, it can be a lot to grasp that there would be people that have such nefarious intentions. But this is a, you know, a really amazing planetary simulation for us of all kinds of beings here. And we get to choose our timelines. So choosing new earth, choosing connectivity, choosing to support the sovereignty and the divinity of creation. And so for me personally, in my experience of working with the weather, it's not about control. It's not about my ego thinking like, oh, this is right, this is not right. It's sitting with them and feeling and allowing your emotional body and really that psychic connection, which is the noospheric connection, the telepathic connection, to feel into what would be appropriate, what would be highest aligned, and to be very broad in our prayers, in our grid working, to ask, you know, for the least amount of destruction possible, for instance, when we're having these fires, or whatever feels just like a blessing of the situation and calling in the highest harmony. So we want to be very, of course, conscientious with our words. But in my experience, it's been more about seeing something and feeling what wasn't right and calling in the balancing force. And in my experience working with weather systems, it's very easy, very, very natural to acclimate to this kind of grid working with the weather systems when you're on coasts and when you're in the mountains. If you have familiarity living on a coastline or on an island, you are familiar with the weather systems, the patterns of the ocean, and there's a lot of variability with that, and also the tides, right? So you have more of an organic connection to these ebbs and flows, which is how it should be and how it is naturally. And also mountains. The mountains have their own weather systems too, right? Being at those altitudes. So these are some of the environments that I've had time growing up and traveling around the world, grid working with the weather and feeling very connected and just calling forth a beautiful outcome for all involved. And let's see, another thing coming through to share. I just lost it. I have to bring it back. The headlines. So if you'll notice, there are thought form injections that are not of the highest love and service to humanity all the time in the headlines. A prime example of that would be the headlines shifting constantly back and forth, you know, from, oh, there's a hurricane coming to Southern California, to then dropping it down to a tropical storm, and then, you know, lifting it to a hurricane again. And they pre-program, or they attempt to program the consciousness of the masses to also impact the weather adversely. And this is where you can see evidence of that noosphere consciousness concept that I brought forth earlier in the video transmission, where we are psychically connected to the weather. So if we're afraid of something, we're giving energy to that. If we are in love with something, then we're giving that energy to it, right? If we are lovingly encouraging the free expression, which is harmonic and divine and not destructive, inherently not destructive, typically speaking, of Gaia's elemental expressions, and seeing how they are extensions of us, our love and our gratitude and our positivity and our belief and our focus on harmony and these beautiful higher octaves of conscious expression, the beauty of the weather, right? And there's this organic flow that when there is imbalance, balance will come, right? It's the natural geometries of the figure eight. Equality, right? Balancing out extremes. The extremes have been created with this polarity through a lot of influence, right? That isn't organic influence, technosphere influence. So one of the biggest ways that we do our weather grid working is when we see something in the headlines, we say, maybe, maybe not, and kind of read through the lines, read through. This is where I get into the oracle state to read and to feel. And everyone can do this. You just feel with your heart and you're like, oh yeah, they're trying to traumatize people again. So we say, maybe, maybe not. Everything they've said before turns another direction, which is really great on many levels. There are many examples of this. Like, for instance, they said last year, that California's drought was going to continue to be worse. And then what ended up happening was all of that flooding, which did have a lot of, adverse effects, but a lot of positive as well, much more balanced, where I shared in the West Coast Gridworking video, you can see the water levels have risen. For example, even in Lake Siskiyou and Lake Shasta, you can see that they're higher up than they've been in a very long time. So we have an abundance of water. So now they're trying to say, oh, there's going to be flooding, right? Same thing in Washington. They said, oh, we're in a drought. And every time we would see that, we would say, maybe, maybe not. We love you, rain. We love you. We love hearing your music. We love it when you visit. We love feeling you kiss our faces. And we love hearing the music of you kissing the earth and nourishing the earth. And we love hearing the earth as it receives your raindrops. Just feeling that hydration, right? It's very sensual, very, very ecstatic exchanges of elemental essence and magic, right? So you can counterbalance what you see by being neutral and saying maybe, maybe not. And boy, I sure love the rain. And oh, I love it when things work out well for everybody. It's very soft, right? So it's not a resistant and it's not a fighting kind of energetic. I will have stronger energy that's more like a dead nope. And one example of that would be at the very beginning of summer. Here's two examples. Well, the last couple years, now they say we have a fire season. We don't have a fire season. That's never been a thing. It's not a thing. That's why I keep saying, oh, that's so nice. You put it on all your propaganda and all your paperwork and all of the different utility companies sending it out to everyone's homes. Isn't that so considerate of them? No, there's no such thing as fire season. No. So sometimes we will put a just full stop. No, that's not a reality. Like, stop trying to fucking make that happen. What do they say? Like, stop trying to make fetch happen, right? Yeah. So that's from Mean Girls. So that's one example. And then where I'm like a hard no. And then the next one is the beginning of this summer here in Washington State. They're like, okay, it's fire season, so you need to be prepared for the horrible air quality. And you're going to have to spend most of your summer inside. That's so sad. I was like, fuck no. We're not going to spend the summer inside. There's not going to be a summer of hellish fire air for everyone. You see how they're trying to take away people connecting with Gaia during the seasons of outdoor recreation. Fuck no. 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 So anyways, I just wanted to share a few little pieces of the process of weather grid working and to show you how powerful you are in your connection. Other examples of this, I remember a wise person was talking about, the droughts in California. This was like back in 2016, postulating out to the collectives, maybe if more of us cried, the water would flow. And I think that definitely has been a real thing. So many people releasing emotion over the pandemic thing that we had. The waters were flowing, and we talked about this year being a water year, the water rabbit. We've seen more water, right? And Neptune has been very prevalent as well. So Fire and water are always here to purify. Gaia is always ready to assist with that. And in extremely desperate situations, a full-on shake-off, with an earthquake. But that's very rare. If you notice, it's very rare that that's naturally occurring, because humanity usually does a pretty damn good job of taking care of itself, right? So yes, we can see fire and water as part of the purges, but the invitation here is to no longer allow ourselves to be emotionally and psychologically manipulated by these weather people, because weather can change, and we can support the elemental forces here, the kingdoms of Gaia's expression. We are a part of them. So thank you for tuning in. Wishing you all a beautiful rest of your day and experience, and I will see you soon for the next transmission. Take care.